As I mentioned on NBC Sports Washington, he's the analyst for the still in the playoff mix Wizards, despite the record. So, Drew, this is an interesting deal. If they can close the gap to 4 games on Orlando and on that 8th spot, then they go into this playoff where if they're still the 9th seed, they have to win 2 games, or the 8th seed Orlando just has to win 1. As a player, what do you think of the way they've put this thing together?
I'll tell you what, as a player, I'm actually excited, especially if I'm with the Washington Wizards. If you look at the landscape and how the season has played out, primarily for the Washington Wizards, losing John Wall at the beginning of the season, dealing with a lot of injuries, Bradley Beal having a great season, but an all-star snub this year, but having an opportunity yet to be an all-NBA player. This is a second season. This is season 2.0 of 2019, 2020, and they're having second life and another opportunity and a shot to get in the playoffs.
So, Drew, how fast can guys ramp it up? Because for Washington, Orlando, even Brooklyn, it's going to have to watch from behind there a little bit. You're going to have to play playoff intensity type basketball in those 8 regular season games, especially on the Wizards end and the teams in the West. How difficult is that going to be on the guys when they come back?
Well, as a fan, you got to be happy with the structure. I think this is a great situation because the season was on the brink of being canceled and suspended. Now, as a player, it's tough. It depends on what situation you're in as a player and what team you are on. If you're on the Golden State Warriors, it's tough to stay in shape at this time with the unknown and not knowing what's going on with the season. For the Clippers, for the Milwaukee Bucks, those teams, it's a lot easier to stay in shape because you have your eyes on the prize, a realistic goal of winning a championship. But the tougher teams, I think, that have the mindset to stay in shape are teams like the Washington Wizards, the Portland Trail Blazers, the teams that really don't know the uncertainty of the outcome of this season. So as a player, you could have all 3 of those mindsets, whether you're in the playoffs, on the cusp of the playoffs or out the playoffs. That's how you have to take on your training and prepare for these games ahead.
Yeah, Drew, I'm reading through all the stories and the reports and hearing the conversation of robust testing and being in the bubble down there in Orlando where you played, where you are now. How do you think the players are going to deal with a very different lifestyle in terms of what they're used to as a basketball season takes place? And for some teams, Drew, this is going to be all of July, all of August, all of September, all in one place.
Yeah, well, there's no easy way to cut it. If you want a season to continue, you can't be picky. And it is what it is, whatever is set up. But I think the setup is going to be great. I mean, partnering up with Walt Disney and being to have a place to stay for your family outside of the team hotel, I think is great. There's going to be a lot of protocol on just the maintenance and the care of the players and to protect them and the staff. I mean, you got to remember, it's not just the players, it's the personnel, the team personnel around the players that also have to be kind of in this quarantine situation. But, the biggest thing of this, we're all happy and excited that the season is going to start back up. But the biggest thing we can not forget is the safety of our players, the safety of the people that work around the NBA, the safety of me and you as media personnel. We have to still be cautious and aware of that and follow the right protocol going forward.
Well, now that there are plans in place, Vegas has weighed in, and they say that the Lakers are the team to beat. They're the favorite with the Bucks and the Clippers close behind. From where you sit, does that sound right to you?
Hey, I guess I'm in the wrong job. I should have been working in Vegas because that's who I have too, as the Los Angeles Lakers. But after the trade deadline, the landscape for the Clippers drastically changed. And I'm a big 2K player. I play basketball in 2K right now, but more than ever. And seeing the different attributes, seeing how the depth of the Los Angeles Clippers versus the Lakers, it's quite different than in the beginning of the season, the regular season. And now with this big break, I think it could be up for grabs. But the favorite and the guy that I played alongside with for 4 years and been in battle with, LeBron James, is who I have my money on winning the NBA championship.
Drew, what would it mean? And it's so weird because we've kind of suspended all this talk of sports history, sports legacies. I think of LeBron with Cleveland because the years you guys were there and what he was really able to do with that team. Then I think of what he did in Miami with Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. and now trying to write a chapter 3. If LeBron can go to LA and make a third championship chapter out of this, whether it's in this odd year or in the next couple of years, what will that say in your mind to the way he's done it, different than Jordan doing it with one franchise for the 6 NBA titles, absent the time with the Wizards? What would it do for the uniqueness of LeBron's accomplishment?
I think he's already separated himself, Mike, from Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant in that sense of winning multiple championships outside of the same organization and different coaches and different teammates. I think he's already accomplished that. I think this will be the tale of the tape of, okay, I've not only done that 2 times, but I'm going to do it a third time in Los Angeles. It doesn't matter who the coach is, doesn't matter who my teammates are. I'm going to provide another championship for the city of Los Angeles. Now, if he does that now, you're starting to see, or where does he separate himself from Michael Jordan and the late Kobe Bryant? Now, there's one variable that we never talk about when this discussion comes up between Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and LeBron James. And there's one guy that I
Mm-hmm.
think is the variable in this formula, and that's Phil Jackson. I mean, if you take Phil Jackson out of this equation, how many championships does Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant have? So LeBron James is in a unique situation outside of not having a Phil Jackson, being able to have to go like a vagabond and go figure it out himself with multiple coaches, multiple organizations, multiple systems. With that being said, I think his book is a lot different than Michael Jordan's and Kobe Bryant's because I feel like they had the structure with Phil Jackson most of their career and were successful with Phil Jackson.
It's interesting perspective, and we know that Phil always says that those guys help make him, and vice versa, and the cast around. But as you bring it up, it's an argument that will never get answered. But it certainly is an intriguing point of the different coaches and players that LeBron has had over time here. I want to ask you, Drew. You're a guy who played not just with LeBron in Cleveland, but with 10 NBA teams in your 14 years. You are from Oakland, so you have seen really a vast, different array of NBA cities, of places to live, of places to be around. NBA players in your time in the league, even to now, have increasingly become more vocal about social issues and things that are happening. And obviously, with the George Floyd situation in Minneapolis, that has become topic one around the country. How have you seen the comfort of NBA players grow in using their voice from where it was when you got in the league to where it is now, where there's definitely leadership from a lot of players like LeBron to speak their mind on these social issues?
Well, when I first got in the NBA, I mean, email was just becoming popular, just having an email address. Now, with the social media platforms, you have your turn as an athlete to speak on any topic, whether it's something that you said in the paper or a quote you had. You can go back now. Once that quote comes out in the paper or on a social media platform, you have the power now to go back and say, no, this is what I meant by that quote. Where back in the day when I was playing, whatever you said, whatever was written, that was set in stone, and you could not go back
Mm-hmm.
and kind of fix those things. Now I think you have a voice as a player, whether it's that situation or you're touching upon social issues, right? Like we have going on right now, or trending topics, or whatever your favorite food is, the things that you like to do outside of basketball. So the audience and the fans can kind of have that connection with you. I think it's amazing now that the players have a platform to do that, but now it could also help you and it could hurt you as a player. I feel like it's a two-way street. I mean, a lot of guys have been notable for doing great things in the media, standing up for political views or standing up for certain views they stand for. But then you have backlash on
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like the stuff that just came back out with Drew Brees, sticking up for something or saying a comment that you thought was the right thing to say at that time, what actually comes back to haunt you. And all those millions of fans and followers that you just were able to get now are your enemy. So you have to be very careful as an athlete using your platform in the social media sector.
Yeah, and maybe the hope is, at least from where I sit, as these conversations have come up, that it's okay to disagree. It's okay to hear somebody else's perspective, to be educated by it, to understand. It doesn't mean that you must adopt whatever this person says, but don't just judge people for that one thing. We used to be able to civilly agree to disagree about topics in the country without it becoming this big chasm. And maybe if we can do more of that and listen, if somebody does say something that's not right, you can point it out, you can help educate them and move on from the conversation. Well, you're in a good spot down there in Orlando. The basketball will get going, hopefully, if there are no more bumps in the road right there in your backyard. So you'll have a good view for the Wizards trying to make a playoff push here over an 8-game regular season. Been a long time. Drew, good to catch up, and I wish you the best with NBC Sports Washington. Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.